I guess first off, thanks again for joining and actually jumping on this call. And I know you're super busy and you've got a lot going on, but I think it's really great just to get a good conversation happening around this campaign, this activation, and our partnership. So for everyone that doesn't know, Swanky Socks and Crazy Socks for Docs have now become the official partners for Crazy Socks for Docs Day, which is done on the first Friday of June every year. I believe this year is June 6th. I've graciously got Dr. Jeoffrey Toogood with me, who's the founder of Crazy Socks for Docs. Jeff, we've been going back and forth for probably over a year now, I think, thanks to a few other connections and a colleague of mine, Angus. Just to start with, I think maybe let's get a bit more of a background around yourself, around Crazy Socks for Docs, the inspiration behind it. Yeah, I'd love to hear your story to start with.
Yeah, thank you. We're very excited at Crazy Socks to have you as our official sock partner. So we're excited along those lines. My personal story is that I've had, over a period of time, significant issues with anxiety and depression, and faced kind of what I would suggest significant stigma with regard to my mental health and trying to recover.
Yeah.
And, you know, like a lot of good things, sometimes they start a little bit by accident, but sometimes by a bit of, you know, a lot of work. And when I returned to work after being significantly ill once, and I was well, I turned up to work in a pair of odd coloured, brightly coloured socks. It wasn't kind of the right good thing to do, even to wear brightly coloured socks then, but I was doing it to cheer myself up.
Yeah.
Or, you know, kind of not, but be bright. But in that day and age, it's very conservative. Of course, you wore the blue socks with the blue suit pants, and, you know, and the other thing that didn't happen was they were mismatched. And so people thought that I was, you know, he's going, you know, in inverted commas, and it's an inappropriate word, but at that time, but it was, you know, crazy again. And it was very superficially based. There was no reason to suggest it. It was just the way I dressed on that day.
Sure.
The odd socks were because my dog that I bought was a young golden retriever puppy that had sort of demolished all my socks and eaten through them, as they do. And I only had two socks that weren't slobbered to wear, so I had to wear them to work.
Okay.
And so that was the reason. But what I also was concerned me was that people may have noticed this, and yes, maybe I might have been well again, but instead of asking me, instead of reaching out, there was all this backstory. And they made a superficial judgment, and no one was concerned to ask me how I was going. And if they'd asked me, I wouldn't have been upset, because I would have gone, well, look, they care, this is what happened, then we'd have a little laugh and move on. But I wanted to start a way in which we changed the conversation. And people could come up and ask someone how they were going, and make sure they were going well or going okay. And if not, there was a way to seek help. So I posted this on Twitter, as it was then, and it had this reaction I wasn't expecting. And we trended number 2 or 3 in the country on that day. The only tweet that beat us for a period of time was a misspelt tweet by the current US president, who was the US president at that time, when he misspelt a word. And so he was number 1.
Wow. That's
if he could have spelled on that day, number 1. So that was just something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. And just, I guess, I'm going to go off script here very quickly and straight away, I guess, because going back to, what was this, 2016, 17? Or
it's around 2016, 17. Yeah.
And I guess if we look back then compared to now, when it comes to mental health, not only just in the healthcare system, but in general, there's definitely been a stigma in the past where it's not okay to talk, and people don't feel safe. And there's also always two sides of a coin. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned through even my own mental health, and realizing that, you know what, it's very common, and a lot of people do go through those processes, but trying to figure out the best way to share that is extremely difficult unless you feel safe. And creating, I guess, awareness through what you've, I guess, not even strategically done, but it's come out like that, where socks are a conversation starter. I remember back to when I started Swanky Socks, and one of the appeals was that, you know what, colourful, fun socks. You're in the workplace, you're having a coffee on a Monday morning, someone sees your bright coloured green or pink socks. Oh, those are lovely. Starts a conversation. How was your weekend? So I think the awareness and I guess the way you've gone about it obviously isn't ideal, but it's now built into something that is extremely exciting. I think not only, I guess, for yourself as the founder of Crazy Socks for Docs, but I think for just creating awareness for mental health in general across both the healthcare system and on the broader spectrum. Since you started Crazy Socks for Docs, what's been the growth and how's it gone from where it was to where it is now, and moving towards, I guess, the partnership with us, but probably more so the growth from your side and the awareness?
Yeah, I mean, it's grown more than I thought it would grow. When it got such a reach in the first year, I then thought that this needs to be taken. I could take this to the next step, and I wanted to grow it so that there was a kind of annual day or an annual time every year. That doesn't mean, I mean, one of the good things about the socks is that, yes, there's an annual day, and that's where we highlight and we all get together and discuss things. But largely, you might need to wear socks 365 days a year, so the conversation can continue.
Yeah,
I thought it'd just be a local, thing, maybe Melbourne, Victoria, but then it went national, and it's over a period of time, just through connections that I've got, or via LinkedIn or other connections.
Yeah,
it's grown so that there's an international reach now.
Sure.
South Africa have embraced it, and they have a huge day on the same time, on the same day, but in South Africa, across across basically all the medical schools in South Africa and many of the hospitals.
Yeah.
And there's other countries around the world where people will pop on the socks and do it. So it's grown each year.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good, and I think I've definitely noticed that, and I've seen that, and I mean, coming back to, I guess, understanding the cause of what this actually is, and as you mentioned, it all started from what you went through and your experience that built on this. But I guess mental health within the workplace, and more importantly, healthcare system, I've seen it firsthand with family and friends in that area, and coming home after a long day or experiencing something that is quite traumatic definitely can take its toll, and that also has a ripple effect on then family members around them because they're experiencing that. But then even obviously deeper, it's more than just, I guess, a trauma or a bad day. It goes far deeper than that to understand anxiety and depression and more so. But I guess looking at mental health within the medical system, what's, I guess, your views there? And is it becoming more open? Are people talking about it?
Slowly, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's certain groups, not, across the country where, and certain professions where sharing of a story has become a little bit more okay to do.
Sure.
And they will have more they'll have more people that have shared their story or willing to share their story. It's still difficult in medicine, and to be honest, there's probably, I could count on, two hands the number of doctors in Australia that are prepared to get up on stage and share their story.
Yeah.
Very small number.
It would be hard to as well, because I mean, they need to be seen as, I guess, the strong, the one that has everything together, that can communicate to the people that are going through something as well, which is incredibly hard. I don't know how anyone could be in that position. And
I think one of the things when I started doing the early talks, and I still do talks for Beyond Blue, is that the hardest first talk I gave when I was talking to a room full of my peers.
Yeah.
When I was just talking to, the general public in inverted commas, but people that weren't doctors, it was a much easier conversation for me.
Sure.
But talking to your peers was harder.
Yeah.
But I think what I would say is that, I've met a number of people over a period of time in this and who share this joy, and a few doctors, but like, we are the very people, once we recover and get better, that can be the leaders.
100%.
Because we have proven strength and proven resilience, and we know what it's like to go through it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've had less concerns for my patients. They were my biggest fear. What would the patients fear? I've had like 2 patients or 3 over a period of a decade of me speaking that have decided to leave because of my so-called mental health. The vast majority are very supportive, and they come in with socks to give me or articles they see in the paper.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I ask them why, and they say, because you know what it's like to be a patient, and so you will treat us, you won't treat us like we're just some sort of clinical problem. You'll treat us like a person, because you know what it's like to be a patient in a certain circumstance. And they've also shown that, I've done these stories and they'll say, well, there's my doctor. And then their families looked, and some of them have gone off and sought help because of what I've done. So the reach is quite broad, but it's still difficult in medicine, and there's still a stigma, and it takes a significant amount of courage, is not the right word, but to get up and do it. And a lot of the more junior doctors would fear, and I use the term junior, but like younger doctors or doctors earlier in their career, would have a fear that it would impact upon their future employment and their future aspirations. And that's probably true.
Yeah.
If they came to me, I would see them, for a job as someone that's resilient and, sought help and has self-awareness. And so they'd be the person I'd want to employ.
Yeah. I can definitely see both sides there. And I guess what do you see, I guess, the participants and there are a lot, and we'll get into this in a little bit around, I guess, the fundraising side. But I guess, what are you wanting people that wear crazy socks on June 6th or for this purpose to get out of it? What are you hoping to achieve, I think, for these people outside of yourself?
Oh, I see. I think we have aims about creating awareness, advocacy, and action. They're sort of our 3 pillars, if you like, of what we want. And that means you can do that. You may have a morning tea, you may have an afternoon tea, you may have a lunch, you may put them on and take the photo. When I watch some of these videos, some of them are having a lot of fun doing this and coming up with a lot of, TikToks and a lot of other projects. So they're enjoying and having fun talking about a serious problem and creating awareness about a serious problem. And I hope the participants take away a sense of, fun, and each individual doing it can make a difference along those lines. And if we can just, in all these projects, when you give a talk or do run days like this, if you can just change someone's life, if you save one person's life, how important is that? And we've started lots and lots of conversations because of this and change.
Yeah.
You can't document it. There's no way we can document it because it's just too hard to drill down on those numbers.
I think you're spot on there as well when you say, like, your aim your aim is to have an effect and impact everyone, but you know what, if it's one person that, here's you speak, or here's this conversation, and it completely changes their dynamics and the way of thinking, and maybe an opportunity for them to open up and communicate to someone else and share what they're going through, like, that is so powerful. It's not funny. It's extremely powerful.
It is.
And that's or I think when I look at it, it's you're trying to save one or open the conversation for one person, and in the hopes that it will continue on and become normality to just talk about it, and with no stigma, no judgment along those lines. And even going through, I mean, you talk about awareness, and that's probably one of the big things when we spoke about last year when we first connected, was that there's a lot of awareness that's currently going around for it, and they wear these socks and they'll go buy them from wherever, and it's awareness, which is great. But that second step also about, okay, well, what can we actually do from an actionable perspective to make change now? We're creating awareness, we're starting conversations. I'm going to say we, I say you're starting conversations, your organization is starting conversations. But what can we now do to assist in terms of, I guess, servicing and programs and making them more readily available for these people? So I guess moving into the fundraising side, which is where Swanky Socks and Crazy Socks for Docs have partnered, is that financial sort of process where, hey, we now need to look at a strategy of raising funds through this campaign and through this project that can then be put forward towards programs, services, staff, etc. And there's a lot involved there. There's administration. It's no small feat. Excuse the play on words. So, I mean, are there any specific goals or things you're looking to achieve with funds that are raised through this campaign in the coming years?
Apart from the general backroom running and keeping it afloat,
yeah,
we are looking to fund tangible projects and things that will create tangible actions and change.
Yeah.
We're looking at partnering with another group to develop a sort of series of videos about how to have a conversation to your doctor friend in distress, and also how a doctor can have a conversation with a doctor as a professional who's in distress, because they're slightly two different things, and to work through all those issues. So that's kind of what we're looking at to fund in the next month or two. That's a bit that's a general sort of idea and project that we would just.
Is there anything like that, like currently, where apart from there
kind of is, but we want to specific. Well, it is and isn't, and some of it's a bit old, and we want to specify, not specify, put it into a little, into things that matter, and
So no, speaking of like Beyond Blue, and I know like organisations like that, they'll have a 24/7 communication tool where you've got members actually communicating not face to face, but just via text message or typing within a chat, which is great. And there's probably a really large opportunity to try and build on that within your own space. But as said, like doctors peer to peer,
there is
conversations.
We don't have a strong enough back room to do what Beyond Blue do. We would not be able to run it effectively.
Yeah.
That would be the ideal.
Yeah.
But we don't. And so we can't, we've got to kind of stay in our own lane in a way.
Yeah.
And make sure that what we do is that we don't let people slip through the gap because they're on this and we don't see that.
Yeah.
So we'll start out with, it might also be filming a few doctors with stories and what they did. Those sort of things are the kind of projects that we're looking at in the next 6 months or so with the fund.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great idea. I mean, I've mentioned your name to a couple of people, and they seem to know who you are, which is
it's a bit distressing. Not distressing, but it's like people go, they know who you are, and
but from a very positive angle, and even a neighbour of ours that is at the RPA was familiar with you, so that's great to see, and I think that's where the next step for you is that actionable component of, okay, the funds raised through the sale of the socks, and if we'll get into that, we have a collection of Crazy Socks for Docs that have been designed in collaboration with yourself, and they've come together great, and they're on our retail site, and 100% of all profits from the sale of those socks go back directly to your organisation, which we're really excited to be a part of. The second part is, and I guess this is where Swanky Socks has a really strong opportunity to assist you further, is that corporate side, which is where we do a lot of our work, and working with medical organisations, government organisations, even small practices where they actually do their own branded custom socks in collaboration with our retail brand. And we do that globally. Australia, the UK, we've got an office, and US, Europe, etc. So I think the exciting part for me personally is that there is a potential opportunity that if we continually raise the partnership and the awareness of this day and what we can do, and say, well, you know what, and your next corporate purchase can be a part of Crazy Socks for Docs, and there can be a contribution that goes directly back to them, which can become very significant. And that's the exciting part for me, because everyone's always trying to do good within the corporate sector, and as we've discussed, awareness is one, and going and buying your socks, but getting actionable next steps is so significant, and that only comes from funding. So I guess I'm grateful, and I'm humbled that we're able to assist and help you in that respect, and hopefully get you through to that next phase of this journey of Crazy Socks for Docs, and even yourself. And like I said, I mean, you talking to me about your own stories, it also makes me comfortable in being able to talk about my personal stories. And like I said, and hopefully everyone else that does watch this video and engages does feel comfortable in having those conversations. Like I said, this is very much directed towards the medical community and trying to raise that awareness, but I think just everyone in general having an open conversation. There are so many other organizations doing good, but obviously our focus is really to try and make Crazy Socks for Docs Day on June 6, 2025, the day, and that first Friday of every June every year. Every medical staff member and practitioner, they're excited to get behind it and really support a meaningful and I believe something that has true purpose behind it. What's your vision for the next 5 years? I know it's a very cliche question and it's very hard to say, but you've given those views on the awareness and raising funds and then putting it into potential services and platforms that might be able to help people. But are there any other suggestions or thoughts that are crossing your mind where you want to go in a few years' time?
Well, there's one thing we could look at is that ideally we should put ourselves out of business, that we've been so successful and solve the problem. But that's not likely. But I think to continue to grow, and we want to continue to fund projects that, enduring will help and, get to the front line and tell stories. I mean, storytelling is what a very successful play and a group in this area, Beyond Blue, started off as, people sharing stories, and they have countless people share stories. It's a powerful way for the story to go, and then you give the background about it and the data. And I think funding, sort of what I said before about the the videos and other self-help, and then maybe being able to have our kind of ambassador program where we could send out our storytellers to tell stories would be, and I mean, it's modeling on another organization, but I mean, I don't think they'd be upset if we do, and it's just another way to do it. And that's where I think we'll sit, and then they can be going in and telling this story to other people and getting people to change the way ahead. It's expanded more than I expected it ever would. I mean, it's gradual and it's taken a while because we run a fairly lean organisation. We have 4 board directors and they all volunteer their time. So, it's just...
That's why, and I do appreciate you jumping on a call and having a conversation, because I can see that time is very crucial, especially within your industry. And I've mentioned, I guess, what we will be doing in terms of selling and creating custom orders for corporate customers. From your view, I guess, probably just one comment. I really want to really try and understand what your view is there. But like, if someone is struggling, from your experience, what do you see the best solution, or not solution, but strategy for them to get past that hurdle? And I guess I'll say quickly, I guess I know a lot comes down to, you know what, when you really hit rock bottom is when you really are able to ask for help. And sometimes it's too late. And I've seen that in several occasions. But how can we change, I guess, the focus, where if you're suggesting to someone to talk, what would your strategy be there?
You've got to do it confidentially with them.
Yeah.
You've got to be empathetic. You've got to be a listener and not judge. And then you may need to help them get to where they need to go. It might, instead of just saying you need to go and see your local doctor, or you need to see them, they may be in a stage where they just can't do that. So you may say, look, I'll book the appointment and I'll take you, or those sort of things may be the way to go.
I find it hard to believe that, and I know it just takes ripping the Band-Aid slightly, but reaching out to a family member or a close friend that you trust deep down, and just saying, hey, I am going through a really bad time right now, and I need someone to talk to. Are you open to that? I don't feel that a negative that would be taken in a negative way or be pushed back on anyone.
I don't think it would. I think, and most of the time it's just listening, and then sometimes the listening is the most important thing, and then working out what you may or may not need to do to help the person at that time. And putting strategies to keep them safe. Unfortunately, in medicine, but also generally, people delay getting help for a long period of time. And Beyond Blue did some research into this, and there's a significant delay in getting help for a variety of reasons. People don't think they're unwell, someone else is sicker than me, they haven't got time to go and seek help, they don't have the financial resources to help. It's a multitude of reasons. And if we could just bring that back by just a year or two, from seeking help, because sometimes it's years before they do, how much better would that person be? How quicker would the recovery be? So,
are there mechanisms to, I guess, test that within going and seeing your GP, like very early on? Like,
I guess there are. I mean, is there
a guideline, or when you're going to see your GP and you're going, hey, I'm feeling unwell.
Well, I think I don't know if there's a guideline, but there might be. You can go along and chat to them. Yeah. I mean, they're the pillar. Like, general practice is the central pillar, or central pillar's not the right, but the central kind of core. In this, and they provide obviously often the first care, often ongoing care, and short of them seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist, they require a different level of care, or that the general practitioner's not comfortable in that area, or whatever. But the general practitioner is the key. They are such an important resource, and at times under-recognised. Essential pillar in this.
Going on that, I was going to finish this, but I always go off topic. So one thing that I've discovered and spoken to people, and even my own experiences and people that I know very close, seems to be quite difficult to go through that process, because you have to go to a GP. You have to then be referred to someone to say, hey, you do have anxiety, or you do have depression, and that's a hard process.
Yeah, it is. Like, general practitioners are very good at managing this, at the start, and they can make the diagnosis.
Sure.
But they're under-resourced to manage someone that requires much more time to manage and to help.
Yeah.
And then when they need to refer them on, then there's significant delays in seeing people.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I know in my own story, it took me a long time to seek help, and I was one of those people that delayed.
Yeah.
And then it took me, my general practitioner was fantastic, but I needed more, I needed elevated care. And that still took time. And you're sort of waiting in this state of desperation to seek that help. And that kind of wouldn't be applied as, I don't know what. If you presented with a more so-called organic illness, if you came in suffering from chest pain, you would be out of that. The GP would have you seen either a cardiologist or in the hospital very quickly, and that would be managed very quickly. And that's a way in which the resources are also difficult.
Yeah. Is there a lot of funding after the GP?
Yeah, there is, but
process?
it is, but it's costly for people.
Yeah.
It's
So government funding towards therapists, psychiatrists.
Oh, there is, and it's changing. So
yeah,
we don't want to date the video, but like at different times, there's a certain number of psychology consults that are able to be claimed.
Yeah, okay.
That requires also being a general practitioner, having a mental health plan and being referred. So that's for a psychologist or for a psychiatrist. And, it's difficult to get in at times, and that's no reflection on him. It's just, there's a lot of work that, to be done, and it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, well, I think we've got through so much in this conversation. I really thank you for taking the time to share your story, having, I guess, the confidence, but I guess also not sort of confidence, the strength to be able to actually talk about it, your own experience and journey, and share that with myself. And I'm really excited to see what we can do over the next 4 months, and really build on it. And I always like to use the phrase that it's just small steps and get us to the next stage of business. And we don't need to leap straight away, but taking these small little steps towards our next stage, and really trying to get Crazy Socks for Docs out there to more people, create more awareness, get funding, allow you to be able to get to that next stage of business as an organization within your own strategy is truly exciting for myself to be a part of, and our company, Swanky Socks. So thank you very much for that, Dr. Jeff Toogood. I look forward to, I guess, working with you and celebrating on June 6th and wearing my Crazy Socks for Docs.
Thank you. I should say we're very excited about the partnership, and we're excited because it's an Australian company and we want to support an Australian company. The socks are incredibly comfortable, so that's lovely. And so we wanted to partner with a company that was Australian-based and started Swanky Socks, and where the socks were, a quality that we would reflect what we're trying to work with. And that's how the partnership came about. And so I guess it's taken a while to find a partner, but it's, small steps, as you say, but forward is forward. So
it is 100% correct there. Well, thank you so much for that, and look forward to sharing this with our audience and our customers and everyone around us, and really trying to make an impact and working with you more, even on a personal level, to really raise awareness and communicate. And I guess if anyone ever wants to talk, there's a very good man that is happy to have conversations, and I'm probably even the same. If anyone ever wants to reach out, please by all means reach out to myself. It's about opening that passageway to feel comfortable and safe. So we'll finish up there on the recording. That's all good. How are you feeling? Good?
Good. One thing I did notice is there's a delay in the video. You'll fix that up, won't you?
We'll see how the recording.
It's a long delay because it's like,
is there?
You look up there. I'm looking and I'm not saying what I'm saying, so you might have to.
We'll see what. Yeah, I'll have our team work through that.
It may not be.
No.
When you get the recording, it may just be what I'm seeing because you're looking up there. I'm not. I had to turn it off when I use this last time. It must be in my settings to Google Chrome.
It's raining today, so maybe it's the. I mean, I've got full reception in here, but that's all good. But
it's just I'm answering and then I'm looking up and then there's something else. It's like, oh my God.
Well, hopefully it all went and recorded well, and we don't have to go and do it again. But
that's all right.
They went really good. I'm really grateful for you taking the time.
We're grateful to you because we wanted. Yeah.
I guess I can take that off record and